Well, welcome back everybody. Welcome back, Paul, to the Stats Show. And in this one, I wanted to go through my stats. Not everything, but one particular round that I've recently done that hopefully you guys have seen, which is at Alcanada out in Mallorca. Went out there for the Challenge Tour finals, wandered around, watched the players, had the opportunity to follow it up the next day with a round of golf on that golf course, on the tees that they played off, in the same pin positions. Fantastic.
You couldn't. It's the best place to try and do something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the weather conditions almost identical from when I watched them play to when I teed off and played in the event. So to have that opportunity to actually put yourself in that situation and see how you do.
Yeah.
You know, like we can look at stats all day long and look at where we are benching ourselves comparing to those tour players and things like that. But to actually go into their environment, to go into their golf course in the same setup that they have it, because obviously we compare ourselves to the tour player, but most of the time we're playing on golf courses which are nowhere near set up to tournament level.
No.
You know, so it was a great opportunity. So I've brought Paul in, head of our statistical department of the channel, to kind of almost analyse what I've got up to during my round, some of the highs, some of the lows. It was very much a game of 2 nines, I would say, which we can talk about as well. But yeah, so where are we going to start then, Paul? Where do you want to go with? You got any questions for me to start with?
How did you feel you played?
Nervous.
Nervous, were you?
Anxious. No reason why. Was anxious getting going. So I think the first hole kind of, I was set myself up. I was there or thereabouts to make a birdie, really, par 5, and then didn't quite thing. And then I kind of came up against a couple of stumbling blocks with my feel, with my swing, and then got a bit anxious for a few, certainly to get going with, because you're mindful when the camera's on and you're playing. It's not you're mindful that you don't really want to embarrass yourself.
No.
You know, you don't want to go around there and shoot 85, you know, and embarrass yourself. And it felt like at one point that I was heading on that road, as you can see from the blue numbers in the first 9 holes.
If we look at the stats, you can see from your card that, you know, you started off not so good, and that probably highlights that you were nervous, maybe.
Yeah.
Front 9, you've lost 3.21 shots to the average tour player. Of what they would score. So what were you going out? You are...
Well, I'm 3 over.
3 over.
But
so,
and you got to remember, we'd looked at one of the guys that had shot, I think he shot 9 under the day before, so we were looking at his card.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the 8th hole at 4 over par, because I did actually birdie the 9th, I was 8 shots behind him.
Yeah.
Because he's 4 under, I'm 4 over.
Yeah.
So... I mean, being 3 to the rest of the field is not bad.
Shotscope has got the course playing slightly easier on the front 9 than the back 9, but not by much. It's not, you weren't, it wasn't that bad. It's still saying it's 3.21 over what you should shoot as the average tour pro.
Yeah.
So it's not horrendous, but obviously then the back 9, a hell of a lot better, and you obviously got grip.
Was 1 under on the back 9.
Yeah.
So 3 over going out, 1 under with a +2 score total.
And that's really done your card a lot of good, because if you'd have kept on the train you were going on the front 9, you could have had a high number. So that was really good.
And how did the back 9 compare to the tour player?
So you are 0.6. So you've gained 0.6 of a shot, 0.06 of a shot. So actually they're ranking it as slightly. You should be 0.06 of a shot over par.
So closer to level par on the back 9. If I'm 1 under it, I should be closer to level par.
They've got the 9s are pretty similar, but they've got the front 9 just slightly easier than the back 9.
So actually, they're saying that I mean, they've nailed the course then, haven't they? So they think that it's a level par golf course for a tour player.
It's interesting you say that, because I've always wondered, how do strokes gained? They always give you a par for the course, what a tour pro would shoot around that course. It's not always level par. It could be 4 under, it could be 4 over. So it's based on what the average tour pro would shoot, and they have the course down as 0.15 over par. So pretty much level par is what the average tour pro should be playing.
Okay.
And I think the middle person in that tournament, so 22nd out of 45 person, finished at level par. So they've pretty much nailed what the average tour pro would shoot around that golf course, which is quite amazing, really, because I've never tested what their ranking of the course is, and by the sounds of it, by using that as an example, they've got it bang on. So
and let's get this right. Talking about tour players, people might turn around and say, well, this was Challenge Tour, this is a level below tour. These guys are tour players. So
you've got you had the 45 best Challenge Tour players playing, and is it 20 of them?
20 of them get a card.
So half of those guys are getting their card for next year, so they will be fully fledged top tour players. Yeah. And the other 25 guys are just as good anyway. Yeah. So, they are a benchmark of a tour pro. Yeah, what you're playing against there, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I get confidence, like just listening to what you're saying there. I've built a little bit of confidence even now, just thinking the fact that, for 9 holes of that golf course in a tournament environment, I'm there or thereabouts with a tour player. Yeah. Like that for me, that's quite a confident feel.
You shot 2 over par. If that had been your average score for the 4 days, they would have put you at 8 over par, and you wouldn't have been last. You'd have been, I think, 41st out of 45, 40th place. So you can compete to an extent with those players. So you're not, and I think 9 under par won the tournament. Yeah. So it's not a huge amount off of that.
9 or 11? Yeah, 9. I think
it was 9. Yeah. So it was a tough golf course. Yeah. And the scoring was quite high. So to shoot 2 overs, pretty commendable, really. Looking through the stats. Yeah. We break down your scoring. Tee shots, you were giving up 1.15 shots. Approach shots, half a shot, you're giving up. Short game. So this is around the greens, nearly 2 shots.
Giving back
to the field. But you picking up a shot and a half through putting. So you've putted very well that day. Yeah. And to me...
Clutch. I felt like it was a clutch round. A load of clutch putting.
It was. I watched it back. It was very clutch.
Were you nervous watching me play?
I was nervous when I watched the first 4 or 5 holes and thought, crikey.
Where's he going with this?
This could be...
disaster.
This could be some numbers going on here. But well recovered and very respectable score in the end.
Those greens were so good. It was literally like putting on this.
I'm going to ask you, the stats here with the short game. Yeah. Let's take out the putting for the minute. But had you prepared properly?
No.
Had you seen the golf course before? I think you walked around it.
Busy week. Flew in straight filming the other golf course. Up. Entertaining in the evenings, all of those sorts of things that go on with these familiarization media trips. Yeah, okay, so then the next day we went and we watched. So we went and watched the Challenge Tours. We got back. We got back late. So I didn't even see the first sort of few holes of the golf course because I caught them on the back 9.
So you can see by your scoring.
Correct. I had no idea where I was going. So I hadn't really prepared the day before, so I'd never seen the golf course before, hadn't seen any of the course at the front 9 really. Got there, bus a little bit late, as in we got there and then I was checked in, ran onto the first tee, off we go.
This just sounds like standard bus tour
preparation. Ran, so they cleared the driving range, and I ran up to the driving range just to hit a couple of balls, and I ran out 150 yards out, picked up the only 2 balls that were on the range, came back and hit them back out. So that was me. Right. And then straight to the first tee. So there's your preparation.
And I mean, watching back through the video, I could tell that your short game was struggling. Yeah. Because it's when you go abroad, you need to get familiar with the rough and around the greens because you've got grain. It's completely different than what you get over here. So, I mean, if we look through your stats, you can tell your short game was nearly 2 shots out. And if we dive further into the short game, and we look at the strokes gained shot by lie type, you can tell that the rough is what's caught you out here. You've lost over a shot from the rough, from the bunkers, under half a shot fairway, under half a shot. So that wasn't great either. But the rough is the bit that jumps out. That is, for me, that's going to be a unfamiliar, because your short game's pretty good, isn't it? You're a pretty good chipper. Yeah. So that for me is just going to be a preparation problem there. I think you've not gone round the chipping green and had a test out the rough and got familiar with it.
No, and it really jumped out to me, Paul, on 13. You'll see it where I've hit. It was a monster par 5. I've hit a great drive. I've hit a great 3-wood into the bunker. Yeah. clipped it a bit tight out of the bunker, gone over the other side, and then I've duffed my chip. I mean, I don't really duff chips like that. And I just, you could see my world just falling apart at that point again. Because I was like, I just can't chip out of this stuff. It's hard.
It's tough, and it's always a guess when you're chipping out of different types of lies. You know, it's your best guess really of how to play it. Yeah. You're never certain. Like off a fairway, you're pretty much certain how it's going to react. Yeah. But out the rough, it's, you know, you think you know how it's lying, but you're never 100% sure. So. No. You mentioned tee shots there. How do you feel you drove the ball?
Not good. So. When I get a bit anxious, so when I get a bit steery, I struggle to release the club. Like I get very tense, so therefore my natural shape of the draw, it kind of leaves me. But I know it leaves me, and I try and play for the fade, but it's not. It was a bit of a tight. Certainly the first few holes, it was quite tight off the tee up the left, so you can't hit it left to fade it back, so it's making you hit draws, which I was just struggling. I kept leaking them a little bit. It felt like I was leaking them a bit right. Anyway.
Yeah, we look at your tee shots and we look at the accuracy of it. You can see that you were missing right predominantly. That was costing you. It was costing you the most shots, and it was costing you 1.22 of a shot by missing it right. So. And I think you hit 13 drivers and 1 3-wood off the tee, so on the par, on the holes which got fairways. So it's definitely a driver issue going right. Looking at that,
okay,
definitely.
Yeah, again, I think tension jumped in there.
Yeah, and you're right there because your grip pressure does change. I don't think there's been enough surveys done on it or studies done on it, but if you're gripping it really tight, it's difficult to release the club. And that's when you get under pressure, people do tend to grip it tighter. And that's, I think that's something you can maybe look at going forward, that when you do.
That's an interesting one. I've never thought about that.
Approach play, how do you feel that went?
I'm struggling at the moment in general with iron play. I mean, I'm honestly with irons in my hand, if I can hit a green, I'm just happy now. Yeah. I've lost so much confidence in that area of the game. Yeah. I need to get it sorted because it's killing me. It really feels uncomfortable hitting anything into par threes and par second shots.
Yeah, and I think looking at the stats, 20% right, 15% left, so it's definitely favouring the right. You only hit 40% of greens, which a tour pro, the average tour pro is hitting 67%. So straight away you're putting yourself under. You're putting your pressure on your short game, but also 20% short as well. So that's probably a strike issue for me because you should know your numbers by now to get the right club. So for me, I'd look at the strike. Short right is probably the pattern that I'm seeing from what the stats are showing there. So that's something you could probably have a good look at. Yeah. If we go on to putting then, because we've looked at the worst parts of what happened, let's look at the best part. What I saw in the video was that your putting got better as the round went on as well. Is that something because you probably hadn't prepared properly?
So no, again, when you get onto those greens, when they don't look like they've got any grass on them. When you get on them, they look so glassy. That your first few putts, and I consciously, it got to about I think it was probably about the 5th or 6th hole, I think it was something like that, where I felt like I was decelling into the putt. Yeah. Every putt was like I felt like I was slowing down all the time coming into the impact zone, and it was just so negative. And I thought, I'm never going to hole a putt, and I need to hole some putts if I'm going to recover anything here. And that was where I started to just be a bit more confident with the putt and, accept that if it went past the hole, the greens were so true anyway that you could get a good read on it coming back. And that was kind of my mindset as I changed. So really negative on the start. Really negative, just trying to find the pace, really. Yeah. And then once I found it, I kind of felt comfortable with it.
And I think as well, when you look at the stats as well of your putting, your make percentages under 12 feet is huge. You're very, very good from 12 feet. It's
9 to 12 feet.
So from 12 feet, your percentages are very, very good. I think you've missed one putt under 12 feet. So you've had 16 putts. No, you've had 17 putts and you've holed 16 of them from under 12 feet.
That's impressive.
That's huge, you know. And then obviously the longer putts seemed okay, but also I think you put yourself under pressure with a few longer putts where you had to hole sort of 6-7 footers for the pars as well. So
for sure.
Again, that's the pace, but holing out incredibly well. I think that's something that you need to maybe look at and see how you can replicate that going forward, because that you can get those numbers every time. You're going to be.
I mean, I'm always there or thereabouts with my putting, to be honest with you. And YouTube's helped me.
Yeah.
YouTube's helped me become a better putter because I've seen myself hold more putts. When you edit yourself and you see more putts going in, you're like, wow, actually that's a good putt. That's a good putt. And
that's the way that your brain works as well, because a lot of people tend to forget their good shots or their good putts and just
focus on the negative.
Yeah, and they put more, negative energy into their bad putts and get disappointed with themselves. Yeah. And you're more likely to remember something if you put lots of energy into it. So I think by seeing those putts go in and just remembering the good putts, straight away your confidence gets built up, and then the more your confidence is, the better you'll be at something, definitely.
So all in all, pretty tidy.
I think you can be very proud of that round. I think, considering you're not a tour pro, let's be honest. So I think to be able to shoot a score which would be respectable amongst tour pros. I think the guy who won it shot a 1 over par on one of the days.
Yeah.
So I think you can compete, and obviously you don't play as much as they do or train as much as they do. So I think that's very, very respectable score around a very difficult golf course.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to analyse my game. I got to say, when I walked off that golf course with a 74, I was like happy as Larry.
A few beers after, just to celebrate.
Just to wash it down. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you actually enjoyed the video that I put together with my Alcanada. If you haven't been out and seen that, make sure you go and watch that. It was a great few days that we had out there in Mallorca. Amazing place to play golf. I don't know if you've ever been out there.
No, I'd like to go out there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic venue at Alcanada. Big thank you to Paul for going through that with my stats. Don't forget, if you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see everyone again. We'll see everyone again very soon. Thank you very much.